My name is Keren Tischler, if you haven't met me before. You'll know a few things about me before the end of this. It's actually a kind of a personal message and hopefully not too personal. Anyways, I wanted first to welcome everyone who's here, everyone who's not been here before, everyone who's shown up online. Thank you. Thank you for being here. And this is my first message here at KUUF, and so I feel both humbled to be invited here, but also excited and just a wee bit nervous. So I'd like to begin with gratitude, first of all, to sort of set the table. Gratitude, of course, to Mother Earth and Father Sky and water, air, space, to all my teachers in the natural world and in the human realm as well, to my parents and ancestors and my friends, some of whom are here today, my partner, Kurt, and to all of you who make this UU Fellowship what it is, to the UU folks who have invited me here, and to the principals of this fellowship that are so inclusive they can even invite me to give a message when I wasn't even a member. But I just joined this morning. The title for my message today is Cultivating a Truth-Seeking Mind. I borrowed this term from a Buddhist term called the way-seeking mind, and that is a translation of the Sanskrit word bodhicitta, which can be translated as awakened bodhi, awakened citta, heart or heart-mind or mind, depending on who you are. In that context, the way-seeking mind is considered to be that part of us, each of us, that seeks truth and goodness. It's that part of us that feels us angsty dissatisfaction with the way that things are, but it also feels a determination that there must be another way. It's the core of our being that both wishes to wake up and is already awake. It's said that it's the seed of awakening that already exists within each of us, and to germinate, it simply requires our awareness of it and our intention to do just that. I also chose this topic today as my first time up here because in some Buddhist traditions, the first talk that is given by a student is called the way-seeking mind talk. And this talk is meant to be a bit of an oral stitching together of one's life journey and an unfolding of their unique path. And I think in the process of doing it, it sort of brings them understanding and hopefully brings some insight to others as well. So perhaps we can think about this as a curiosity toward the causes and conditions that have brought each and every one of us to this very moment, right here, in this brand new KUUF space, sitting together in these chairs today. And a growing confidence that every bit of this experience is essential part of our journey. Both the welcome parts, but especially the parts that we really would rather not be there. I've enjoyed these types of talks that I've heard and have found elements of my own experience in them. So I hope that as I speak about my experience today, that there's something there for you. And I'd kind of like to use this concept of a way-seeking mind, or I'm going to call it a truth-seeking mind, because truth is one of the UU principles, as sort of a leaping off point to share some threads from my life and to get acquainted with you, because some of you know me and many of you maybe don't know me, and some know me from different parts of my life. And of course, we're always changing. And recognizing that though I'm the one standing up here today, that I am among many elders, and each of you, regardless of your age, has your own wisdom. So today, please indulge me and let me be the student for a few moments. The youngest of 4 children, I was born in Cleveland, Ohio, where both sides of my family had settled after immigrating from Europe. Cleveland is home of the Cuyahoga River, which caught fire multiple times in the 1960s, some of you probably remember, and helped spark, pun intended, the environmental movement that resulted in the creation of the EPA and the passage of the Clean Water Act in 1972. It was around that same time that I was unintentionally conceived by my parents. And the following year, I was born and named Keren, Keren, after biblical Job's daughter, Keren, who was born after a period of great suffering in Job's life, apparently. The Hebrew word Keren means horn of plenty or ray of light. Though my classmates would have had a great time with this, I'm so thankful that my parents dropped the Hapuk part. I was raised a Missouri Synod Lutheran, and had a high school history teacher that opened up my eyes to the goings-on in the world. This ignited a fierce, if naive, care for the earth, along with a side of outrage and cynicism, which in my teenage years I was rather happy to direct towards my religious upbringing as well as the American dream. Although I felt a strong ethical grounding, I also developed an allergy to anything that sort of smelled like belief, and instead gravitated towards personal responsibility. I was a vegetarian and a militant recycler back in the 90s. I vowed to never have children and thought I wouldn't marry. At one point, I told my disappointed mother that my church was in nature, even though connection to earth wasn't necessarily a thing that was cultivated in me as a child. It just emerged. So I had the privilege to attend college, and that's what brought me to Lake Superior, and I also attended Michigan Tech and had the privilege to get a master's degree studying ecology, and started becoming intimate with our local flora and fauna. And for the next couple of decades, I identified as a biologist, working mostly monitoring loons and protecting them, but also working with the now extinct in the wild Hawaiian crow and moose on Isle Royal. I found joy in being outside in the weather, and especially traveling under my own power in a canoe. I fell in love with phenology as a way to keep time. In winter, I often had the urge to roll around in the snow to get closer to it. But there was also this growing sadness inside of me about the loss of habitat, about mercury exposure in birds, botulism, poisoning, to name a few things. To even such a beautiful and ubiquitously adored bird as loons, it just seemed kind of hopeless sometimes. So the chip on my shoulder about the species to which I belong was growing into this topography that had place names like disappointment and judgment and anger. My ascetic tendencies to lessen my own species' guilt were growing, but alongside that, I was also developing some really lovely friendships with elders through my work and my neighbors. And I noticed Sherry Zors is one of those here today. And I had the opportunity to accompany a few of them through the last months of their lives. So I had to ask myself, if humans were so bad, then why did I feel such tenderness towards these friends? And why did I miss them when they were gone? Then in the midst of some unwelcome life changes in my 30s, friends and family just showed up and supported me, like we've heard some folks say today. And it was during that time that I first sought meditation practice. I was actually at a Hancock City Council meeting, and Susan Burek reached over and gave me a piece of paper that said, meditation noon, Friday, E.L. Wright Building. And that happened to actually be my first introduction to KUUF, because this was the meditation that was led by Reverend Sidney Morris. Through this experience, I eventually came to feel, again, a deep love for everything. And joy came back. And this time, though, it was kind of funny because it was ignited by human relationships. I actually fell in love, and I even got married. So we all change. I was kind of on cloud 9 for a while there, but I did come back down to the earth. But this time with some glimpses of what maybe that truth in my life might look like. And I just decided to head in a slightly different direction. But I did sort of stick with what felt most safe. So I decided to work on decreasing my own footprint and became a mushroom farmer and started growing a bunch of my own food and riding my bike everywhere. But then I realized I was kind of, again, sort of trying to do everything myself, and I couldn't. I'm kind of part of a connection of people and other non-people beings. So most recently, everything changed again. My husband had a medical emergency not too long ago, and he was unlikely to survive, actually. But he did, and he's recovering very well. So when I got that call about him, my body kicked into fight or flight like most of ours would, except this time there was something else also present. There was this kind of grounded feeling, like it's not just this, there's more. And once again, people showed up from everywhere to support us. So here I stand before you and starting something new again in a next chapter, and I honestly don't really know where it's going to lead, but I'm getting to trust that the truth that guides me, regardless of outcome, kind of getting back to our theme here. At times I've called this truth for me presence or love. These days, I'm calling it a growing trust in the mystery, a willingness to kind of turn toward the paradox of life that we all experience. In one book I read, it was called The Amazing Tragedies of Life. Like, there are tragedies, and yet there's also this incredible beauty and grace in them. To feel both the pain, but to hold the whole and not leave anything out. So what I'm beginning to learn is that my story is rewriting itself. I'm including humans into the fold of what is lovable, and that I'm recognizing that I'm not separate from them, and humans are not separate from the earth. Earth care is people care and vice versa, or at least it can be. And I'm learning the value of supportive community, that I can have my ideals, but I can't necessarily always stay on my horse without the support of others. And for me, that's kind of growing into my meditation sangha. It's people like you, friends, family, KUUF, fellowship. It's also the outdoor community for me. It's woods and water. So if truth seeking is an investigation of what's at the core of our being, it's also taking a mirror and looking inwardly with gentleness and curiosity about what we see, whether that's pride and cynicism, or courage and compassion, or some of each and a few others as well. While I am obviously still arriving, I'm also softening into the truth, belief, awareness, I don't know what word shall I use, that I'm also already arrived, and so are you. This perhaps is the sense of an already awakened mind, that way-seeking mind, that mind of bodhicitta, that truth is already there waiting for us to acknowledge it. And for me, at least, that is a comfort. It's a place of rest, knowing that nothing is wasted in this life. As one of my teachers likes to say, use all of the ingredients of your life. Don't push any of them away. Yesterday, I attended a life celebration for a young 32-year-old woman in our community, and listening to her loved ones share about the arc of her short but full life, it seemed to me that the truth she was rooted in from birth to death was fearlessness, joy, and inclusiveness. She was also rooted in steadfast support. Beautiful, I thought. So I'm going to end here with just a few questions. What has shaped the arc of your life thus far? What seeds of truth do you care for as you move forward into the remaining steps that you are granted? Do you feel confidence that the ember of your basic goodness is already in you? Can you see it in others? And if you can't see it in others, can you at least remind yourself that it's there? Do you believe that? What support do you have or do you need to remain rooted in this fertile ground, regardless of outcome in your life, in the election, in the world? So I'd like to just end with the poem Widening Circles by Rilke, which is the poem that Stacy Craig started her last message to you all with. I live my life in widening circles that reach out across the world. I may not complete this last one, but I give myself to it. I circle around God, around the primordial tower. I've been circling for thousands of years, and still I do not know. Am I a falcon, a storm, or a great song? Thank you.